Let's start in Columbus. Let's start with Big Noon. Let's start with Penn State at number 1, Ohio State. Ohio State 19.5-point favorites in this game. Of course, going into the year, people always kind of have this game circled. Penn State's beat Ohio State like once, right, in 16, so they always chalk it up to be some rivalry and some great, huge game, and Ohio State usually goes out there and kicks their butt. And I think it's probably going to be more of the same here this year. Obviously, it could have been a lot bigger of a matchup, but Franklin fired, Aller goes down, boom, you lost 4 games in a row, 2 of which to UCLA and Northwestern. If you're Penn State. So you're in a really difficult spot, obviously. But this is their natty. This is their season right here at this point. This is, when you fire Franklin and you lose to UCLA, it's like, well, we got the Ohio State game, and that's kind of, our whole season here at this point. So they're going to come in 19.5-point dogs on the road. New quarterback. Grunkmeyer is the guy. Now, he's from Columbus. This has happened a few times in the past where you got this guy, this Ohio guy coming in, an Ohio State reject, right, that they didn't want him. That's the case here for Grunkmeyer. Had his first start last week against Iowa. I mean, brutal for him. I don't know if this kid can play. I don't know, but his first 2 starts are at Kinnick in Iowa and then at the Shoe. So, I mean, good luck to you there at that point. But there are some players still on this Penn State team, right? They're still, this is a team that was, preseason 2, right? They're the top 5 preseason team. We didn't think that was accurate. We thought that was crazy that they were that high. But this is still a team that a lot of people thought could contend for a national title coming into the year. And that isn't just because of your quarterback. That means you have a solid team. So there's still some guys on this defense for Penn State. Again, this Ohio State game is going to have their full attention, and it probably has been over the course of the past few weeks there as well. And the biggest matchup to me is very simple. Jim Knowles is the defensive coordinator of Penn State. He previously was the defensive coordinator of Ohio State. And that defense last year for Ohio State, tremendous. It's even better this year, but that's probably why you won the national title last year. Not probably, definitely why you won the national title last year, because Jim Knowles and that defense were unbelievable. Messy end to the Jim Knowles era. You remember they were celebrating the national title, and then he was locked out of the facility, and it was very quickly, it was like, this guy's out. He had some issues with his contract. He wanted more money, and it got very ugly very, very quickly for Jim Knowles. And, Ryan Day talked about it this week, saying, we're thankful for everything Jim Knowles did here, did a great job here, but not much of a relationship here at this point. So Ryan Day and Brian Hartline are going to be ticked off going against Jim Knowles. Make no mistake about that. And Jim Knowles is going to be ticked off going against Ryan Day there as well. And that's the matchup here in this game, is can this Penn State defense hang in there and avoid Ohio State giving up or scoring 40 points in this game, or even 30 points in this game? Because Penn State, you're not going to score. In a perfect world for Penn State, you score like 24, right? And it's a perfect world. Wouldn't shock me at all if they scored 7, right? I just don't, is there a way where Penn State could even get close to 30 points in this game? Absolutely not. So the only way you have a chance here, if you're Penn State, if this is a low-scoring game, well, the only problem with that is you got to go against Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, right? Julian Sayin, an unbelievable offensive line. So that chess matchup is going to be, that's get your popcorn out type stuff when you're talking about offensively Ohio State, Day, Hartline against defensively Knowles. Now, they know all each other's tendencies, right? Jim Knowles, he knows where Brian Day and Brian Hartline are weak. He knows what they're going to want to do. Same on the other side. Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, they know what Jim Knowles wants to do. They know his weaknesses. They know his tendencies. So who's going to break off their tendencies in this game? Whoever does that is going to be in a better spot. Now, obviously, Ohio State has more talent in the process. Look, if Ohio State tries to do their Michigan game plan where they just try to run the ball stubbornly, then it could be a close game. Because if there's one thing, this Ohio State team is excellent. If there's one thing, it's they're not the best running the football. But if they let Sayin cut it loose, it's going to be ugly, because he's gonna go crazy if they let him do that. And I don't understand why they wouldn't let him do that. He can do it, and he proved it against Wisconsin. Obviously, this Penn State team much better than Wisconsin. But if you let Sayin cut it loose in this game, he will play great. He will really put his name into the Heisman hat. It's already in there, but he really will put his name in there. And you're going to win this game, because Penn State can't stop this offense and make it as close as they need to be as it relates to their offense scoring points in this game. I just don't think Again, Penn State, in a perfect world, they scored 24 points, and that probably involves them getting a huge play on defense or special teams in the process. Just not going to happen. And it's hard for me to, despite Penn, again, they got some guys on their defense, but it's hard for me to sit here and say Ohio State's not going to score 30 points in this game. Very hard for me to come to that conclusion. Staying away from it, not a best bet of the weekend. If I'm picking a side, I'm picking Ohio State, 19.5-point favorites at home. Unfortunately, this game was supposed to be great. The environment will still be great. They'll still sell it out. It'll still be raucous, but wouldn't be surprised if that game got ugly. Another game at noon, great game. Vandy at Texas. Texas could be without Arch Manning. Obviously, we're live here on a Friday. As of now, we don't know. It looked like a borderline concussion, was in concussion protocol in the overtime game last week against Mississippi State. Texas finally gets to come back home. 4 straight games. They've been away from home. 3 on the road, and then they had Red River, neutral site there, obviously. So finally they get to go back to Austin. That could help. It's weird. When you win games as a college football team, that gives you an opportunity to create some momentum for yourself. They were in overtime games against probably the 2 worst teams in the conference that you got borderline lucky to win. At the end of the day, you won the game. So maybe things can, turn the corner here for Texas. If Arch doesn't go, I find that very hard to believe. Matthew Caldwell is their backup. He obviously came in, had the great throw in the back of the end zone to beat Mississippi State last week. He's played a lot of football, was the starter at Troy last year. I think Texas and Sark has some confidence in him going out there and operating their offense. But I'm expecting this to be just a really low-scoring game. A defensive game. Look, Vandy can play defense now. And, Vandy was in a very low-scoring game last week. 17-10 was the final against Missouri. This game feels very similar to me. Texas, they woke up offensively against Mississippi State in the fourth quarter and overtime of that game, but it's been an offense that's been relatively stagnant. Arch finally had started to wake up, right, in that Mississippi State game, and then he got hurt. We'll see, again, if he's available for that game. Should be really, really competitive, though. I think this is going to be a close game. Texas, I don't think is the better team, but very noteworthy. Vegas has them as 3-point favorites last night looked in this game at home. Texas, the season to this point, obviously has been, I'm not going to say a full disaster, but a fall from grace. Nonetheless, this team is ranked number 1 coming into the year, and they, you can make the argument that they shouldn't even be ranked. Right, and obviously they wouldn't have if they had lost one of these games to Kentucky or Mississippi State. Pavia, another big spot for him. The guy's a gamer. Say what you want about him. I'm not the biggest Diego Pavia fan, but he's a good college football quarterback, and he wills his team to victory. He puts them on his back, and that really reverberates throughout the entirety of the team. Just his passion, his toughness, his grittiness. I'm expecting it to be a close game. As far as the side goes, don't really have a lean here. Because I think Vandy's real. I think Vandy is a top 10 team, but Vegas clearly sees something here, favoring Texas by 3 points, even if Arch Manning isn't able to go. So I'm not picking the side, but a total will be a best bet of the weekend, so we'll come back to that. 3:30, Georgia, Florida. Georgia's 7.5-point favorites on the road. Florida's been a mess. It's unfortunate, right? There's a couple of programs where it's like, if this team is good, it's just better for college football. One of which is USC. One of which is Notre Dame, and the other, in my opinion, is Florida, and it just stinks for college football that Florida is so dysfunctional. Maybe that will change. Obviously, they fire their coach midseason. Anytime that happens, you're in a bit of a mess situation there. But still, the Swamp's a tough place to play, and they're going to show up here at this game for Georgia. And Georgia, I think, Stockton's playing at a pretty high level. I didn't think he would be this good, and he deserves a lot of credit. I don't think Georgia – top to bottom, Georgia usually always is going to have one of the best rosters in college football. I don't really know if they have one of them here at this point, but they have the best head coach, and their quarterback is elevating them. And Gunnar Stockton deserves a lot of credit. I saw a picture of him, he had like an alligator around him, recently. I don't know if that was an old picture that popped up, but he's just kind of a country boy, right? Georgia guy. And I'm expecting him to play well in this game. Interesting number. Florida very well could pull the upset. Again, we talk about Penn State still having some guys out there, still having some athletes out there. Same goes for Florida. They look good in the Texas game at home, right? Beat them up there in that spot. And, we'll see. we'll see how Florida performs in that game. I said swamp. Sometimes that game's neutral. I actually don't know off the top of my head where they're playing that at. But regardless, Florida is going to have an opportunity in this game. 7.5 points in favor of Georgia, and I don't have a lean on that one. But don't be surprised if that ends up being a good game. Next up, Oklahoma and Tennessee. This is kind of one of the best games of the day. One of 3 ranked matchups. This is at 7:30 at Neyland. And look, Neyland at night, big time ranked game is awesome. Is absolutely awesome. Tennessee, people have kind of written them off. I want to be clear here. Tennessee is still a threat in this whole thing. I'm not predicting them to win the national title, but if they were made it to the Final Four, it wouldn't surprise me at all. It's the second best scoring offense in the country. Joey Aguilar is playing incredible. People have kind of written them off because they have 2 losses. Who are their 2 losses to? Georgia and Alabama. Oh, yeah, just about everybody loses to Georgia and Alabama. Scoring defense, number 5 for Oklahoma. So there's the matchup right there, right? Heupel in that offense, that attack against Venables and that defense. But Ole Miss showed you last week that this Oklahoma defense isn't great. Right, they're solid, but Ole Miss had no issues moving the ball with Trinidad Chambliss scoring points there in that game, and I'm expecting this Tennessee offense to continue to be just incredible, and just the firepower to kind of explode in this football game. I think Aguilar is going to move up and down the field. I think they're going to score points. I'm still a big believer in Tennessee. Again, they have the 2 losses, and Neyland here is very much a factor. Neyland at night, I mean, that is an incredible environment in the SEC. It's one of the most difficult places to play in the country. Tennessee has won 25 straight home games against teams not named Georgia. So coming into Neyland and winning, it's very, very difficult, and it's only a 2.5-point spread in favor of Tennessee. Oklahoma is reeling kind of at this point. Mateer was an early Heisman guy, early Heisman favorite for the first several weeks. Then he has the hand injury, and he just hasn't been the same since. And it stinks. It really does stink because he was incredible before that injury. You saw it with Curtis Rourke last year at Indiana. Same injury. He was playing great, got the injury, missed a couple of games, came back, wasn't the same. Unfortunately, that appears to be the case here with Mateer there as well. But should be a good game. The environment's going to be great. We'll revisit this in a little bit. Cincinnati, Utah. Obviously, lots of people in this town, this city, are very excited about this game, and rightfully so. I said I needed to see Cincinnati beat Baylor and really take care of them to be fully on here and fully believe. That's what happened, and I'm in. I think this team can win the Big 12. I'm not going to sit here and predict that they win this game. It will be a best bet of the weekend, so we'll come back to that. The status of Devin Dampier, the quarterback for Utah, is up in the air. And obviously that is very noteworthy. But Bird Ficklin is their backup. Going into the year, people thought Zach Wilson's brother was going to be the backup, but they go with this true freshman, Bird Ficklin, and he went crazy last week against Colorado. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. Colorado is terrible. But a true freshman went out there and just completely diced them up, ran it, threw it there as well. And this Utah team, they're going to try to run the football. They're going to try to run the football. They lead Power 4 in rushing, 267.4 yards per game, this Utah offense. So they're going to try to run the football on UC. The UC defense, that's where you got questions, right? You feel good about what they can do with Sorsby offensively. You got Corleone there as your guy, your run stopper. But if UC can stop the run, or slow down the run, I should say, in this game, they're going to have a real opportunity to win. But Utah is going to try to chew the clock, run the football, keep it out of Sorsby's hand. Play into that crowd noise, keep away from Sorsby, and that's going to be kind of their recipe here. So we'll see if it's Dampier that is going to be the starter, or if it's this freshman Bird Ficklin. To be honest with you, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. As far as the spread goes, I think it's probably 10.5 either way. When Ficklin came in, they still run the same offense because he can still run. And, I think UC, if they can try to make a true freshman in a game like this beat them with his arm, if you have an ability to stop the run, they could be potentially successful there in that situation. But Sorsby's been tremendous. 26 total touchdowns, second in college football, 1 turnover. That's getting it done, flat out getting it done. The offensive line for UC has been incredible. as well. But the kicker, obviously, for them is no Evan Pryor. It's going to be a Walker Knight exclusively at the running back spot. Pryor's been terrific for him this year, and he is going to be out for this game. I'm telling you, Utah, prime time. I'm sure there's a lot of people that haven't really tapped in fully to Utah. Obviously, since UC coming over the Big 12, maybe more so now than in previous years. But that environment's real. They don't have a ton of seats in there, but they'll fill it out, and they will be loud. And this is going to be a big test for the Bearcats. Game day, right? People finally starting to talk about this team from a national perspective, talking about them winning this conference, talking about them potentially getting to the college football playoff. Now you have some real pressure as, the expectations have kind of gone up for this program. You've kind of floated under the radar here for several weeks. Now people are starting to get on board. Everybody going to be on board if you win this game against Utah, and it should be a tremendous. I'm definitely staying up for it. I know everybody watching this show probably staying up for it there as well. 10.5 points in favor of Utah at home. We will revisit this game here in a matter of moments for our best bets of the weekend.